as you've heard, I'm from Transition Town Worthing CIC. I'll refer to that as TTW from now on, because Transition Town Worthing is a hell of a mouthful. We're a very practical, solutions-based, hands-on environmental organisation operating since 2009 in and around Worthing, which is a large town on the south-east coast of England, sandwiched between the South Downs and the sea. I hope to screen share our website with you in a while. Dan will help me with that, hopefully. And I wanted to say at this stage that pretty much everything that you need to know about what we've done is on that website. So there's documents, fact sheets, videos, the event brochure, and links to connected organisations, one of whom is Transition Lewis. Our Eco Open Houses events were a gradually evolving process over several years, and our Sustainable Worthing map, which you can access by the resources section of our website, came about as a result of the outcomes of all of these Eco Open Houses events, and all the connections that we made through those events. So please do check that out too. My husband and I belong to Brighton Permaculture Trust, which is where I met Gillian. And we helped to steward the Brighton and Hove Eco Open Houses Trail on several occasions, as well as help at their Green Architecture Days. We thought it would be fun for TTW to put on an Eco Open Houses Trail. So 3 of us did a mini one in 2012, which was moderately successful. We then did another one in 2013 as part of a large art trail in Worthing. That didn't work terribly well because most of the visitors were really only interested in what we had, the art that we had on display, not so much on what we had to say. And then fortunately in 2013, we were contacted by Brighton Permaculture Trust to say that Misha Hewitt from Low Carbon Trust, who created the Eco Open Houses branding and obviously helped to organise all of those events in Brighton and Hove. He and his team were wondering if we'd like to put on an Eco Open Houses event jointly with Stenning. And obviously we've got 2 people here from Stenning, which is lovely. Misha said he would mentor us and he would sort out the funding for the event. So that was absolutely fantastic for us. We jumped at the chance, and the result was a wonderful event in 2014, showcasing 16 properties between us. Misha's Eco Open Houses model was a very tried and tested one. So we were really, really fortunate that we were able to kind of jump on that bandwagon. In 2015, we were keen to do the next trail, and Misha supported us again by allowing us to use his website, and he helped to get the funding for us and just held our hands as we needed. So like a very loving parent, he kind of held us as we took our first baby steps, and then just sort of stood back a bit and was there if we needed him. And so it was really lovely to know that he was there in the background in case we needed any help. That event went really, really well. And so we then did 2 more in 2016 and 2018. Those 2 were based around surface water flood prevention, as well as showcasing properties for people to visit. And the main reason why we focused on surface water flood prevention, apart from the fact it's a really, really good thing to do, a lot of flooding in Worthing at times, was that the funding that was available was from Operation Watershed, which was a West Sussex County Council project. So we did that, and that was amazingly successful, absolutely brilliant event. So finally, in 2020, we planned a really all singing, all dancing event to take place over 3 weeks, with fringe events, very full weekend of properties to visit. However, the universe had other ideas, sadly, as the event was due to take place in April, and we went into the first lockdown just a couple of weeks before that, so we had to cancel the event. Having spent 8 months organising it, and we had spent by then a lot of our funders' money, we felt duty bound to come up with a solution. And the result was spending some of the money on creating a brand new website to house online information, case studies, our brochure, and videos that we made of the properties that we had hoped to showcase in the original event. We put them on a new YouTube channel, which is on our website, and the positive outcome of this whole scenario, I mean, we thought it was the end of the world at the time, but we ended up with a website that has subsequently allowed us to deliver our monthly repair cafe, share a vast amount of information, including climate conferences and a climate assembly. And excuse me, we couldn't have even contemplated a fraction of the stuff that we've been able to do because of that website. Sorry, I've got long COVID and my throat goes after a while, so I have to keep drinking. We had a lot of help and support along the way, particularly from Brighton Permaculture Trust and Misha. It was great that Misha, as I said before, was happy to be our mentor and help get some funding for us. We had funding from Green Open Homes for the first event, and we've always stored our case studies on their website. They helped us to promote the event every year, every time we did it. So do check out their website, as they support events like ours all over the country. I think Dan was going to put on the chat all the different links that I'm talking about, but they are also on our website. We had a lot of support from West Sussex County Council in the form of funding and guidance, and also Adrian Worthing Council with some funding and help with the actual events that we ran. There's a list of those who supported our events towards the back of the 2020 brochure, which is online. And we simply could have not done any of the events without this help. So I just wanted to say that if you would like to put on an Eco Open Houses event, you can start small, like we did. Small, achievable steps, good permaculture principle. Just start small, something that you can manage very easily, enjoy it, and then use that to piggyback other events. Develop it according to your capacity and the support that you can have. So what you do need in order to do an event similar to ours anyway, there's three main things that are really important. Volunteers to help with the event. That can be admin. You need people to steward the properties, because if somebody's opening their home to the public, you need to make sure that they do that safely, and that there's somebody to greet people when they arrive, somebody to support the homeowner, business owner, whatever it is, to answer questions as best they can, and just sort of help to, co-steer it really on the day. You need somebody to do case studies if that's what you want to include. Collating feedback. Feedback's really important, because particularly if you've received funding, your funders are going to want to know what the feedback is from the visitors. Otherwise, you're just making it all up. And there's all loads and loads of odd little tasks that need to be done around the edge. Some of it can be paid work, but you are going to be very dependent on volunteers, I would say, unless you're very lucky for somebody to come along very philanthropically and give you a huge amount of money to do these events. They take a lot of organising and a lot of time. So it'd be great to have plenty of volunteers. So if you can kind of think about that, maybe before you even take any first steps, just try and gather a team of volunteers together who are equally passionate and interested in this subject. You need home and business owners willing to open their properties to the public, which is quite a big ask. And they need to be willing to speak to visitors about what they've done with that property and how they've done it, and also just to be willing to share their journey, because everybody likes to know how people got there. And then funding, very, very important, for publicity and advertising materials, maybe to pay somebody to help organise the event, to create a brochure, hopefully with a trail map, because even if it's online, it needs to be well designed, so that makes the visitor experience a lot easier and enjoyable. And it does need to be fun as well as informative, otherwise why would you bother to come along? You need somebody to write the case studies if you're going to do that. And one of the biggest advantages talking to visitors of doing these events is that people can come along, they can ask questions from somebody who's taken that journey, who's already done it, and knows the pitfalls, knows what works, knows what didn't work. And that person is not trying to sell them something. Because if you go along and you want to find out about a lot of this stuff, you usually have to go to somebody who's an expert and somebody who you are probably going to have to pay. So coming along to an Eco Open Houses event, you can talk very informally to somebody who's done that journey, but they're not trying to sell you anything. They just want to share very kindly their experience. So, and it's interesting because it's not just the property owner who's giving you the benefit of their experience and advice, but we learn a huge amount from people who came along to our event. We would be showing people around our home and garden, and somebody would say, "Oh, I see you've done this. Why have you done it that way?" And we say what we'd done, and they go, "Well, we did this, and actually we did it this way." And then you suddenly think, "Wow, that's so much better." And then you can tweak things, you can change things a bit, or you can share that advice that somebody gave you when people come round. So it's a two-way process. It's very, very much an exchange of ideas and inspiration. Do forgive me from working from notes too, because I don't want to forget anything, and my brain these days doesn't work terribly well, unfortunately. Having recruited volunteers and property owners, it's useful to have a meeting with all of them to outline how the event will run, what they can all expect from the organisers, and a chance to ask questions, iron out potential issues before the actual event, and get to know each other, which is awfully important, particularly you're going to have people coming into your home to help support you. We did this over a light supper in various places over the years. We used a couple of restaurants, cafe, and the last year we actually had a shared supper in a local church hall, which was lovely. Everybody brought a dish, and because there was a big crowd of us, and that was a nice way to do it. And so you need a little bit of funding for this, not too much. And at that meeting, you can hand out event materials, banners, feedback forms, anything you want them to distribute or display at the actual event. Yeah, and one of the ways that we thanked our volunteers for helping and property owners was to invite them to a post-event supper in a local restaurant, helping this to be a very rewarding experience on lots of levels. So you need some funding for that too if you're going to do that. So why bother doing something like this in the first place? It's inspiring, it's good fun. You can demonstrate practical examples of how to save money, time, water, energy, how to retrofit homes, whilst doing something that can really make a difference to the environment. I mean, that's kind of where we began. But then, you know, who doesn't need to save money these days and time? It's so difficult, it's so stressful, and having an eco open house event can really, really make a difference to other people's lives. I can give you the thing that, yeah, sorry, the thing is that what we're showcasing has worked for us as individuals, as householders, as business owners, and so on. And I can give you loads of examples, but one of the best is Francoise's rain garden, which was wonderful. She came along to our surface water flooding event. She had a very, very damp flat. She was inspired by a rain garden demonstration and practical advice. She went home, she got a team of people in to transform her garden into, the whole garden became a rain garden. And the result was she now doesn't have a damp flat. So that was a huge success, and it's a beautiful garden. So there's a video on our website about that. And then Karen and Rolf, who run Henry House, so one of the businesses we featured, they have done a massive amount to save money by harvesting rainwater, capturing solar energy, and a whole load of really simple, cheap, amazing things that they came up with. Very, very creative, those people. Again, there's a video on our website about that. So I think I've rabbited on for far too long, and I need to sort of share what's on our website. So if Dan can help me with that, please.
Pauline, would it be a good idea if when I pull that up, we open it up for any questions or comments that the group might have?
Yeah, do you
we
want
can
to do that now or after I've gone around the website?
Up to you. What do you think would be better?
Let's have questions and comments now, perhaps, and
Okay.
yeah, and then we can
So
just quickly run around the website and leave people with that before we go into the next bit, perhaps.
excellent. So I'll shift us back into gallery, and yeah, thank you for sharing. It's so nice to hear some of these stories and practical impacts. And I loved what you said, like people come along to the event and ask questions to someone that's already been on this journey. And that person is not trying to sell them anything. And that's kind of what is happening here as well, with you having already been on the journey of eco open houses, and people here, from what I heard in the check-ins, being interested in doing what you've already done, and some people having already done it. So for the next little bit, I want to open it up for any comments. So if you've already done an eco open house and want to share any additional experience, or questions, anything that Pauline shared that you would like to learn more about. So if you have a question, just, you can raise your hand in the Zoom or just do this, and I'll invite you to unmute and share. And Rianne, you're welcome to start us off here.
Yeah, well, not a question, just thank you to Pauline. And indeed, it reminded me, like, as I wrote in the chat, in the Netherlands, there's a similar initiative, but there it's more like for private homeowners and small organizations. And indeed, it's been fantastic to like show off all the work I'd been doing in my house, especially dispelling lots of myths. It's like, oh, but it's an old house, or I can't do it. It's like, my house is older than yours, and I've done it. And people being able to like look and touch and feel what is feasible, and people like, oh, I've been wondering to do it, but like I've like in a shop I can't see it for real, and here you can see it. So if anybody in the room is thinking about doing it, I would definitely recommend it. That it just makes you feel like accomplished as a owner of a project, or exploiter of a project, and indeed like invigorated my enthusiasm to when I leave here, but move to this group place, to then after refurbishing it to also then show it off. So thank you, Pauline.
Thank you.
And I just want to share a comment from the chat that Anahi shared. She said it's so inspiring, all the experiences that you're sharing, Pauline.
Thank you.
So inspiration. Are there any other questions in the room? I see Sarah and then Nikki. First, Sarah.
Cheeky, I have two questions. But my first one was, Pauline, you mentioned businesses, and I'm just wondering what kind of businesses were prepared to open their spaces, and what kind of things were they showing, if that was the case?
Yeah, sure. I think, I mean, the main one was Henry House, who actually supported us financially for some of our Eco Open Houses events. They actually were sponsored the event because they so believed in what we were doing. And I think when somebody's gone to the amount of trouble that they went to, I mean, that I can't tell you how much effort and time and energy and money they have put into making their business as sustainable as possible. Why would you not want to share that? You know, talk about best practice. My goodness me, they have won awards, I will say, but they deserve those awards. They've done incredible things. And they're not things that have cost an absolute fortune to do. They've been very inventive, and they're just an extraordinary example of with a bit of ingenuity and the ability to do it as well. Karen's son helped to do a lot of it. They've absolutely transformed their business. So you would always, well, I'm assuming you would want to share that. South Downs Leisure, they're a charity, but they're a huge organisation locally. And again, they've done incredible things. The similar kind of rainwater harvesting to Henry House, but all of their South Downs Leisure run a lot of different leisure centres, the local swimming pool, a wedding venue, a sports centre, you know, all sorts. And every single one of their venues, they've done incredible things. Some of them very, very simple too, to save money, to save energy, and so on. So I think it's people that have come to us really, or that we've got to know along the way, that we know have made a massive, massive effort to just be as sustainable as they possibly can be. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. I was curious just to know if, like, say there was a school with solar panels, if like they were happy with lots of the public looking around or anything like that.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're you know, they're both open to the public anyway, those businesses. But with Henry House, they've got a private back garden that they open to the public, and they still had their business open on the day, so people didn't kind of go into the swimming pool because people were swimming in it. But they had people going around their house, their home, because their home operates along similar lines. So they had their home and their garden and part of their business open to the public. And obviously with South Downs Leisure, it's open to the public all the time anyway. I'm trying to think of any others. Sustainable Sussex, we didn't actually get as far as taking people around the farm, but we've got a community farm locally, and they have since had people going around the farm and seeing all the energy saving measures that they've used on the farm. So I think it's really a matter of trying to encourage people who have done amazing things, but just letting them know that you will support them. If they open to the public, you're not just going to kind of throw it open to the public and they're just there on their own. That's why you have your volunteers. You know, you make sure that you reassure them that there will be somebody on the door, somebody there to kind of help field questions and so on. And we always have a troubleshooter going around the event as well, usually on a bike, and just helping to pick up if there are any problems along the way. But we've not had anybody that we've asked if they can be part of it. Everybody seems to be really, really keen to do it, including our local council. they were really, really keen to be part of it, and opened up their buildings to show people around as well. Buildings that people would not normally be walking around.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Pauline. And before moving to Nikki's question, I saw a question in the chat asking what kind of business is Henry House?
I'm sorry?
What type of business is Henry House?
Oh,
There's
it's a
couple people.
hydrotherapy centre, and therapy and hydrotherapy centre. So it's a swimming pool basically, but it's a hydrotherapy pool. So they have physio sessions in it, but people also go there and learn to swim. But it's very, very warm. So they use, I mean, you have to watch the video to see what they use, but the pool water was rainwater before it's been purified. Bit like, if anybody knows the Earthship in Brighton, which Misha was also responsible for. Yeah, and then they use the rainwater, the wastewater from the pool to flush the toilets, and it's a completely circular economy way of working their business. So.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for sharing a bit more about that. And next, I'd like to invite Nikki and then Mina, and then from there we'll change gears. So if you have any other questions, put them in the chat and we can get back to them later in the call.
Hi, it's Ruth. I've got a couple of questions actually. The first one, how did you actually choose the homeowners? Did you approach people that you knew had the right sort of houses, or did you kind of just put out an open message to the town to find people?
Okay. Interestingly, because we're a transition group and we'd all worked together on lots and lots of different projects before we did the Eco Open Houses events, they asked us if they could be part of the trail. Quite a lot of them. They wanted to be, because, you know, it's an exciting thing to do. And we also had, I don't know how it kind of, it happens very organically in that we meet people, and maybe business owners, for example, one particular business owner who wanted to find a way of advertising their product. And it's like, oh, well, you can put it in, you know, we can have ads in our brochure. And then, okay, well, we'll pay for an ad in the brochure. Well, actually, we've been doing all of this stuff in our home. So can we be part of the trail as well? Can we be? So it's almost like people asked us rather than so much we asked them. It was a bit of a kind of two-way process, really. And then there would be organisations like the EPIC project in Sompting, which was a wetlands project. That was an amazing project that we'd done a lot of kind of supportive work for them. And I just thought, yeah, let's include that. So I did ask them if they'd be happy for us to include the EPIC project, which is part of the Adrian Ouse Rivers Trust, which you must know about, I would have thought, because they work with Lewis and South Downs National Park. But and they were thrilled to be asked to come on board. So it's a bit of both, really.
Thank you. And second question, I noticed that I think for the last one, you had quite a lot of fringe events before the actual open house weekend. Yeah. And I just wondered, did you get a lot of people turning up to the fringe events? And do you feel that it was worthwhile that you got more people going to the open homes because you'd held the fringe events beforehand?
Yeah, that event never happened, where we had all the fringe.
Oh yes, of course, that was the one, wasn't it?
That's the one that we had to put online. But having said that, when we did the previous two events, we did have some fringe events, but they were interwoven within the actual trail itself. So I think we had 2 or 3 in the week leading up to the actual open houses, but some of them were interwoven that weekend as well. I think certainly the when we did the surface water flooding prevention exhibition, we had a big exhibition on with massive maps showing historically where it flooded in Worthing, so people could see, oh, God, where I live that's a bit dodgy there. that exhibition did lead to people going around the houses, because some people just wanted to know. It's like, am I in a flood zone, a potential flood zone that's flooded several times within the last 100 years or 200 years? Some people did come along to that and then picked up a brochure, and then, you know, which is always helpful to have hard copies of brochures. And then from that, then did go around some of those other venues. But the plan was with the fringe events leading up to the Eco Open Houses, yes, exactly what you're saying, because we were going to have a car show, an EV car show on Lancing Green, and we thought we'll probably get hundreds and hundreds of people coming along to that, and then hopefully they will then go along to the houses. But that never happened because of COVID, sadly. But that was the goal. That was what we were aiming for.
Great, thank you. And inviting Mina to share.
Yeah, so my reflection is from what I know of Britain, from having lived there for 10 years, it's quite a lot more sort of densely populated than Sweden. And so I'm wondering, like, logistically, the properties that people could go and see, were they kind of within walking distance, or did people sort of drive around to see them? Because I'm just trying to work out, and we don't have there is a transition group, but it's a small group of people, and they live sort of very far away from each other. Like, so here it would probably have to be something quite distributed, like you would do it if you were to want to look at houses. It would be like half a day of like driving around, like even sort of 20-30 kilometers between properties. So I was just wondering how that kind of compares to any experiences you've had, how sort of close everything was, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Certainly when we did the Brighton and Hove event, I mean, Brighton is a huge town, Hove is also huge. And there were properties that were on the outskirts of both of those towns. So I think they would do them over 2 or 3 weekends. And then what you could do, you could have all the properties open over all 3 weekends, or you could group them, and you could say, if you've got, certainly in the case of Brighton and Hove, if you had a group of properties that were just in one particular place, then they would all open on one weekend, and then another group of properties, you know, that were close to each other, open on another weekend, and so on. I know some of the more rural Eco Open Houses events in the UK, that's how they've done it. So they've grouped them, and it doesn't all have to be on the same day. You know, you run it how you want to run it. But also what you can do is, if you only had one house in a particular place, maybe you can weave into that something else that's interesting, like a fringe event to on. So maybe it could be somebody who runs a craft studio, or somebody who runs, I don't know, has a particularly wonderful garden or farm or something like. Just trying to group things together that would be of interest nearby. And forgive me for saying this, but it's also a form of entertainment for people, because, you know, on a sort of hopefully not wet weekend, but sometimes it is, it's something for people to do. And the spin-off from that, something for people to do, is that they learn something and they go away inspired, and then they try that thing out themselves. I mean, one weekend that we were open, we were only open in the afternoon, so we opened our home to our neighbours in the morning, and all our neighbours came round for a coffee. And then within 3-4 months, suddenly you saw water butts appearing in people's gardens, and solar panels appearing on people's roofs, and sort of raised beds with a
Well, you said you invited your neighbors in the morning, and then the event was in the afternoon. So that's very clever.
and so
Yeah.
the neighbors had kind of special treatment. But what we noticed was suddenly after, you know, we chatted to our neighbours about what we'd done in our home, in our back garden, particularly, that they'd never seen. They can see our front garden, but they hadn't seen our back garden. They're like, oh, wow, we could do that. And they went away and did it. So I love that it inspires people to go away and make change happen. And one of the things that I wanted to say was, you know, we need to be the change that we wish to see in the world. Yeah, we need to walk the talk, and when we do, and particularly if we're passionate about something, people get inspired by that, and they want a bit of that. So, but that's, sorry, gone slightly off your question, but yeah, I think hopefully you could group it so that you've got other stuff going on, like we
Yeah, it just
one of ours in
sounds
conjunction
like
with an art trail, you know.
yeah. It just sounds like you'd have to like plan it sort of carefully. Like, I mean, we'd also have to like source who wants to show their house and for what reason. Like, we wouldn't have a group to source those properties from, and then you would have to look at where they are and like what could be. So it seems like here the sort of planning would need to be really sort of intentional.
Intentional and very creative, I think. Yeah. But you could be very creative with it, and that might be fun.
Yeah,
One of the things Dan said to me the other day was that change can be fun, and you know, and doing things differently can be fun. It doesn't have to be a chore, and it can lead to a lot of joy, and also it can lead to things that actually support you, you know, in a much better way. But that's what permaculture is about, isn't it? You know, that's the whole point of it, really. Thank you. Love all the little hearts.
I see the hearts rising from Nina's thing. And from here, Pauline, I wanted to screen share the website. And David, I see you have a question. We'll get back to questions in a little bit. But for now, I wanted to change gears. And I know you wanted to run people through the website and kind of show them what's there.
Yeah. Can I flick around that, or?
It's on my screen, so you could either direct me on where to go, or I could have you share the screen.
I think, do you mind if I do it from mine? Do you mind?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll give it a go. I warn everybody, I'm completely rubbish with technology.
Oh, you're doing great. We see your screen.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just going to get Transition Town Worthing up. Okay. So this is our website, obviously, and if you go to events and scroll down to hang on a minute, I'll go down that way. Eco open houses. There we are. As you read down, literally, so if I click on the first link, takes you to Eco Open Houses Brighton and Hove. That's Misha's website, and you'll see on there Worthing and Ada Houses 2020 and the brochure on the right hand side of the page. But you've got Brighton and Hove Eco Open Houses. This was their event in 2015. And there are various case studies. You can click on there. There's a video. I mean, some of this stuff is really interesting. So, you know, have a play around with that. There's some archive stuff, hopefully, different events that they've run over the years, and you can flick through their brochure and see all of that. So that's, you know, a really interesting one to go to. Then you've got Low Carbon Trust, which is where all this came out of. It's Misha's actual website. You've got the Earthship Brighton, which he had a massive input into. That's the kind of headquarters, I think, now of Brighton Permaculture Trust. But a lot of really interesting stuff. Everything you could possibly see about sustainable construction, all sorts of stuff. Just do have a look. It's really interesting. That was what inspired us to do what we do. Then you've got our YouTube channel that I referred to earlier on. And there's Eco Open Houses event. You can scroll down. There's a retrofit event, which was going to be one of our fringe events, but didn't happen. So we videoed it. We put the event on. We were only allowed 50 people in the room because of COVID restrictions. It had to be a massive room. But we filmed it, and it was a team of people answering questions, team of experts answering questions about retrofitting. So have a look at that. The EPIC project that I was talking about just now, we filmed a tour of that loads of other people came along to. Adrian Worthing Council made some videos for us. There are various properties on here. 46 Beechwood Avenue is our home, my home. Then you've got Lewis Eco Open Houses event, a really, really interesting video about heating. You've got how to build a rain garden. This is Karen and Rolf's house that I was talking about, Henry House again. And there's loads and loads of other videos on there, so you can have a flick around that. Then you've got the resources page on our website. I think I mentioned this, but the Sustainable Worthing map came out of the Eco Open Houses event. It's, I think, an absolutely wonderful creation that was set up for us by oneplanet.com. And you just follow the instructions and click on the link. But again, lots of people have been inspired by this, because what it does is it kind of brings everything together, and it helps you understand how to connect up the dots, how you could connect up the dots, and how we connected up the dots of what's going on in our town. So then you've got Eco Open Houses under documents, which has got how to build a rain garden, stuff about surface water flood prevention, our brochure, Sussex Green Living presentations, which we had permission to share. All of these things are really, really helpful. And then our Eco Open Houses case studies for the various properties that were open, private homes, a community centre, Henry House. I think that's it. Yeah, so I just scroll down. Event brochure, which you've also got a copy of on the right there. If you click on the photo of the brochure, it opens it up. But also you can click on this link here, and that takes you page by page through the event brochure. And hang on. So that's all the fringe events that we were going to do. Just gives you some idea of what you can do. Visits to recycling plants, people love those. Go and see what happens to your waste. It's so inspiring. Can't tell you, amazingly inspiring. Films that we were going to put on in conjunction with the event, trip to wind farm, retrofit event, our repair cafe, that was going to be part of the event as well. And then this is a useful thing. It shows all the water and energy saving features at a glance of all of the houses on the trail. So you can look across this grid and you can go, you can say, what am I interested in? Oh, my goodness, they've got all these things. Well, I'd definitely go and see that property. Or I'm really interested in one specific thing. Hang on a minute, see if I can. Air source heat pumps. We only have one property with an air source heat pump at the time. Loads of people have got them now. But at the time, these people had done massive amount of research on air source heat pumps. And so, you know, yes, go along to that property, because that one, you know, really, I think even the guy who installed it was going to be there. And then a biomass boiler, we only have one property with that. And so lots of people who were interested in that just went along to that one property. So, yeah, so I won't keep on, but a map of how to get from one place to another. I think, Minna, that's how we showed where all the properties were. And then the rest of it is just information about each of the different houses and what you can see there. Yeah, there's various other bits and pieces at the end, but that's kind of it, really, I think. Oh yeah, and then if you click on that final link, it takes you to Transition Town Lewis, and some stuff on there, various videos on there. So what I love about what we do is we try and all talk to each other and support each other. And so when we have an event, if people want to share that information, share those videos, share worksheets, whatever it is, yeah, they're most welcome. We work really, really closely with other local transition towns, and we all share information. We go to each other's events. It's not competitive. It's about, let's all get the best out of this. And I love that. Absolutely love that. So I can stop sharing now, I think.
Thank you. Yes, awesome. Awesome to see all the resources, and yeah, hopefully, yeah, as Pauline suggested, we can have a play with those, especially those of you that are interested in putting on an event. And for this next 15 minutes or so, would love to hear if anybody has any practical ideas or visions that they have for their communities in relation to hosting an eco-open house or eco-open house type event. Would love to hear what you're thinking. You know, perhaps ideas have come through the session, just to share with the group and start to think more practically in terms of, okay, what might this look like in my context? So if there is anybody that has ideas or visions or inspiration that has come, we'd love to hear from you for the next, 10, 15 minutes or so. And then we can support each other in building these ideas. Or if you have doubts, like, I want to do this, but I don't know if this would work. So yeah, we'll open the space for that for a little bit, and we can go from there. And if there's questions that are tied into this, please feel free to share questions. I see Angela and then Alan.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. It's really interesting to listen, and it's amazing what you're showing. And in Portugal, there's been some discussion, and I remember that many years ago, because we are celebrating in 2024. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the democratic revolution. And after the revolution, there were lots of home cooperatives and social housing. And now there are discussions with the huge gentrification of both Lisboa and Porto, and it's going everywhere around Portugal. There's a huge call for social housing and trying to play with so it's not just social housing, it's new kinds of neighborhoods, new kinds of building materials, and I remember many years ago that they were saying things like the real challenge is not to make a rich house that is top market. It's a low cost and so it's sorry, I'm not fast enough. I want to be fast because it's a bit hard to explain, but I love that idea that we can think of it not just as a small scale, but well, it can be a small scale, but as a representative, really, because it really is like a challenge. So it's more of a comment. I'm not. It's not a critique or anything. It's just. It's like in what I've heard around. I don't know if it was clear. Sorry, I'm not.
No, I just wanted to say, Angela, that one of our eco open houses events, one of the earliest ones, we had a social housing organisation that had done some really outstanding work, and they had a show flat to show their residents what they were intending to do with some of their properties, and we had that show flat as part of our eco open houses event. And so even though it was social housing and it wasn't the home of somebody, you know, it wasn't somebody, and actually it was somebody's home, but they'd moved out for the weekend. But they had these extraordinary things to show how they could save their residents money on their energy bills. Now that is absolutely vital. And they had all these amazing gizmos and gadgets to, you know, smart meters. And this was like 10, 12 years ago when people didn't have those things in their homes. And the other thing, the Green Architecture Day that we went to, that we told everybody about at our events, was that somebody had actually built a house in the grounds of a local university in Brighton out of waste materials. Every single piece of that house was waste materials. There were walls made out of toothbrushes and CD cases, and it's called the Waste House. If you Google Waste House Brighton, I'm sure it'll come up. But, you know, so they'd used recycled building materials. So all of those things, there's so many different ways of thinking about this. It's not just about retrofitting homes. And some homes are hard to retrofit, particularly in some of the towns, because they're listed buildings. So there's lots of things you're not allowed to do. So you have to be very creative, and low-cost retrofitting is certainly one of the things that we're very, very keen on, because not everybody can afford solar panels or ground source heat pumps or whatever. But what they can do is possibly put some tinfoil down the back of their radiator on an outside wall to reflect that heat back into their living room or their bedroom, or which is what we did. You know, or rainwater harvesting to save on your water bills. Our rainwater butts that you'll see if you watch the video of our home, they're old mayonnaise and olive oil containers that we got for £5, which is nothing. And my husband just brought a sort of connector for the downpipe from the local DIY store, another £5. And all of that water, it's like, I don't know, 400 litres of water in a mayonnaise container with a wooden top that he made out of an old scrap of material. You know, it doesn't have to be some incredibly expensive fix. You know, there's for people who haven't got much money or are absolutely on the breadline, there's still stuff you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to share, we'll finish at 30 after, wherever your time is. Somebody commented that the calendar invite was only for an hour. The session was designed and intended to be for 90 minutes. So just wanted to share that with the group in case anybody was confused. And we had Alan and Mina, but first I wanted to check with Dave to see if you still wanted to share your comment from earlier.
Yeah, hi. I was just going to give some feedback on the earlier discussion. which we sort of moved on a bit from. But we in Stenning, which is quite close to Worthing, we're about 15 minutes drive away, and we did a eco open home, sort of in conjunction at the same time as Worthing, in 2014, I think it was. And as we're a small town, I think, can't remember the exact number of properties, there's only about 6 or 7 of us, but all within walking distance. So it's easily manageable thing to do. But thinking about it, we do have other events going on throughout the year. So in a couple of weeks' time, we have an open gardens event where you can go around 15, 20 people's gardens. So if you want to do an eco open houses, you do it the same weekend. So whilst people are walking around the town looking at people's gardens, they can come and look at your, whatever you've got, come look at your installation. And we also we've had art trails last 2 weekends. So if you, wherever you live, you could combine your event along with somebody else, where people are walking the streets anyway, going to an art trail or at open gardens, then just tag along, join them and do a joint event maybe. And so it's all part of the same trail. That could work. Some of the houses vary a bit what you can see. My particular house, people came to my house and they couldn't see much because there's not much to see, because the underfloor heating's under the floor, so you can't see it. The cavity wall insulation is in the wall, so you can't see it. The loft insulation is the loft, so you can't see it. The tank's in the loft. Everything. So they came and all could show them my bills, and that is a big selling point. So you show them the bill, that my bills for a year was £150. So that's all I had to show. And so it's nothing to see here day. So it's if you've got rainwater harvesting and all sorts of water butts, then they can see that. But you sort of some of the homes had more stuff to see. My home, I'd only moved in about a year before, so I had a lot of building work done and extension built. So all these things were sort of done and hidden away. So just thought I'd like to share those thoughts with you. We did get some funding at the time from, we had a big party afterwards, drank lots of wine, lots of beer, all funded by the EU, and that was great.
Your home is gorgeous. Absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous. I loved it.
And I've done quite a bit more since then, so things have moved on a little bit more, but got to a point where I can spend money, but I get no financial return because I could keep throwing more money at it. But what's the point? In terms of my bills currently, because the prices have gone up, I'm spending £500 a year for gas and electric combined. So should I buy a battery for £5,000 or £6,000? It doesn't seem a lot of point really, because I'd never use it. Yeah.
I think, you know, on that note, I think certainly being able to show people the reduction in your fuel bills or your water bills. I mean, one year we focused on water in our house. One of our eco open houses was focused on water, and our water bills were kind of a fraction of everybody else's, and people went away like, how do you have a water bill that low? So yeah, definitely, Dave, you know, good to inspire people and to show a practical, you know, that you actually can do this, an example. Yeah.
And that my home is nothing fancy, it's just a mid-terrace 1930s house, 2 up and 2 down sort of thing, so it's not not an expensive property, and I haven't put lots of money into it really. It's just having the time and wherewithal to do lots of it myself.
Nevertheless, a beautiful home.
Thanks. So
nice to hear the practical examples.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have more, Dave? I wanted to invite Alan in, but is there more you wanted to add?
No, I'll finish off there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Alan, did you still want to share?
Yeah, please. So thank you, Pauline, and Dave, for some really inspiring stuff. Lots of great ideas there that I'm looking forward to stealing, borrowing, etc. And so I had a couple of questions. I mean, obviously the brochure and everything, it looked very slick. And I'll understand if you don't want to say, but how much money are you talking about to put on an event like that?
Gosh, I mean, we've had, you have to tailor your event to the funding that you can get. There are some years, excuse me, there are some years when we've had like £8,000, another year when we've had £12,000, another year that was really like, we got, I think, about 12,000, and then they said, oh, would you like some more? Because actually what we'd love you to do, can you promote this for us and we'll give you a bit more money? So we ended up with another 4,000 or 5,000 on top of that. So it's great when somebody says, can we give you some more money if you just do this? I think they wanted us to include a whole load of stuff in our brochure. This was West Sussex County Council, because we need you to get the word out there that in an emergency, this is what we want our residents to do. So, you know, that became part of the event. So I think we've done it on an incredible, I think we did one on 500 quid, which didn't have an all singing, all dancing brochure. So you could just have a map online, for example, and all the information online. But obviously you need a website in order to be able to do that. But if you've got a website, you could just have a load of information online that one of your volunteers types up. We wanted the all singing, all dancing brochure because Brighton and Hove had one, and we loved it. And we just went, oh, wow, this is, because you look at it and you think, oh, that's absolutely beautiful. I want to go there. I want to see this. So that's why we raised a lot of money, you know, to do it, because we wanted to do it that way. We don't have to do it that way.
Okay, brilliant. And the follow-up question was, a lot of these things seem to be quite far in the past, and I'm wondering if you're still doing them and whether the funding climate has got a lot more difficult.
As I understand it, the funding climate for some things is more difficult, but I think retrofitting is so desperately, desperately needed in this country. Green Open Homes website is a good one to go to, because they have all sorts of information about these kinds of events that are going on and sources of funding. Green Open Homes is part of the Centre for Sustainable Energy in Bristol. And they if you sign up to their newsletter, they send out very, very regularly sources of funding for events like this that you can apply for. So they're obviously still running. They're kind of an umbrella organisation for these events, like Repair Cafe. We've got an umbrella organisation for all the repair cafes. They are the umbrella organisation for all the Green Open Homes, Eco Open Homes events. Yes, it was far in the past, and the reason why we haven't done any recently is because, having failed to do the one in 2020, except that we had to put it online, I've had long COVID since then for the last 4 years, and I am having to be very, very careful about how much I do. And I'm already running 3 different projects that are very demanding projects that are I'm really struggling to do. So I can't take on an Eco Open Houses event as well. But what I have done, is mentored other towns to put them on, and had long conversations on the phone with people about how to go about it. So more than happy to help if you need that.